So the first person I'm going to introduce to you tonight is from the mainstream media. You never had that before at one of your conferences. This man worked for ABC TV for 34 years. ABC TV. Not Fox, not CNN, not a podcast, ABC TV. He was the prime anchor in Philadelphia when I was a member. He traveled with me to every tough issue and disaster I went to. He was at the World Trade Center. He went with me to Kuwait, to Hurricane Andrew in Florida, to Hurricane Katrina down in New Orleans. He was there. And now he's supporting you. That's the expansion of the base. That's the expansion of the base that we're going to build to help you get the result that we all want. This gentleman is, in my case, in my opinion, one of the top media stars in America. He was an icon in Philadelphia, 34 years ABC. Today, he trains new reporters for one of the major national networks. Please welcome Dan Cuellar.
I want to thank you, Kurt, for your very generous comments, although you might have embellished a little bit about my background. But I've known Kurt for many years because he was my congressman from where I lived in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And so he would often call me with different story ideas. And it is true, we traveled a lot because he covered a lot of major events that were going on in our country. The wars in Iraq. But first of all, we began with 9/11. I traveled with him to New York after that terrible tragedy, stood there, and I don't need to, you've gone through it, you know what I'm talking about, but just to say this, that I've had a long history with the congressman. He's a great man, a great patriot. I've known him for many years, and I want you to know that you opened my eyes, Kurt, to what really happened on 9/11 and began to start questioning everything that our government did or didn't do, because that's just as important as what they did. So let me just begin that 24 years ago, the skies, as you know, fell silent, and our nation stood still. We lost 2,000, as you know, 2,977 lives, countless dreams, and a sense of security that we thought was unshakable. Yet, even today, as you've heard in the last 24 hours, the full truth of 9/11 remains out of reach. And I have to ask, why? Why is that? What is it that they're keeping from us? And by the way, thank you for joining us here in Washington to remember, reflect, and demand answers on this very somber 24th anniversary. I also want to remind you that long before 9/11, Al-Qaeda had declared war on America. Their attacks grew bolder, and the warnings were clear. In 1993, a bomb shook the World Trade Center, killing 6 and injuring thousands. In 1996, 19 airmen died in the Khobar Towers bombing in Saudi Arabia. In 1998, our embassies in Kenya and Tanzania were attacked, claiming another 224 lives. In 2000, 17 sailors perished when the USS Cole was bombed at Yemen. A tragedy compounded, listen to this, by an intelligence report that never reached the ship's commander. Each time, warnings were missed, intelligence was ignored, and the enemy grew stronger. But nothing illustrates this failure more than Able Danger. Able Danger, as you heard Kurt allude to, was a bold U.S. Army intelligence program that identified Mohammed Atta and his 9/11 plot a full year before the attacks. Let me repeat that. A full year before the attacks. And its heroes like Lieutenant Colonel, is he here yet? Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer and others, and of course Congressman Kurt Weldon, that were risking everything to sound the alarm. Yet, instead of action, they faced silence. Pentagon lawyers and bureaucrats worked ruthlessly to dismantle this program just months before 9/11. And I have to ask you this question. Why? Why? Why would they do this? You're not going to believe it. Maybe you will, because of politics. And a policy that you may have not heard about, the so-called, Kurt knows about it, the firewall. This wall, authored by then Deputy Attorney General Jamie Gorelick, blocked intelligence agencies from sharing critical information with the FBI, stopping Able Danger's warnings from reaching those who could act. Oh my God, that is so aggravating. So it makes you so angry. And then when the 9/11 Commission investigated, listen to this, they never mentioned Able Danger. Not once. Then there's our good friend, Sandy Berger, former National Security Advisor. In 2003, as he prepared to testify before the commission, he was caught stealing and destroying classified 9/11 documents from the National Archives. I ask you this question. What truths were lost in those pages? What else remains hidden? For 24 years, for 24 long years, the US government has withheld thousands of pages of evidence, information that could answer lingering questions about what happened and why. Now, I've long maintained that on 9/11, we were not defeated by Al-Qaeda alone. We were defeated by our own government's failures, bureaucratic infighting, misjudgments, and a refusal to face hard truths. But today, we must act. The families of the victims, the heroes, and you, the American people, deserve answers. We must demand an independent presidential commission on 9/11, one free from politics and conflicts, to uncover the full truth, hold those responsible accountable, and ensure our nation is never again left vulnerable. And I was encouraged yesterday by Ron Johnson. I like what he said. He said, you know, you guys need to work collectively, get a plan together so that we can conduct these hearings and make sense to the American people. That makes all the sense in the world. So that encouraged me. So let me just say this too. This is just not about the past. It's about securing our future. Let us honor the 9,977 lives lost and the many more in the wars that resulted. The heroes who run towards danger and the families still seeking answers by demanding this commission. And we should not let down. Together, it is my solemn prayer that we can uncover the truth, rebuild trust, and ensure that this tragedy is never repeated. For them, for us, for our future, let's act now. Thank you.